On today's show, Cavs have a big one on Friday night against the Detroit Pistons. Khahil from Locked On Pistons stops by to preview what is one of the more important games left on the schedule for the Cavs. That and so much more all straight ahead on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everybody. My name is Cade Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to another edition of Locked On Cavs, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show the same place you can find any other Locked On podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that is on YouTube as well. If you're on YouTube, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button and click that notification bell if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed wherever you might be listening to this show. This edition of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or even Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I've got my #1 pick or a couple of options for my #1 pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar, and they've got a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned as well. One of my favorites is the cherry flavor, bold cherry candy style flavor. It's got a sweet taste with a little bit of an edge. I do like having a little bit of tart. I know I'm a big fan of the sour apple flavor too. I like that tart, right? Like that is something that I've always been a fan of in the candy I've had, and now the 5 Hour Energy that I consume. It's got a bright, punchy taste, smooth, and it's easy to recognize as well. Maybe that's your favorite flavor. Maybe it's the cotton candy. Maybe it's the confetti craze, or maybe even it's the fruity rainbow. I don't know what you're into, but I know that 5 Hour Energy has options for you. So find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com. That is the number 5, HOUR energy.com, or on Amazon today. On today's show, Ku and I are going to be talking about the game on Friday night between the Cavs and the Pistons, what to expect from both teams, how these two teams would match up in a potential playoff series that could be on the table if the Cavs finish fourth, or really anywhere in the top two, top four. They could see the Pistons down the line. I think that's a very real possibility, whether it's in the second round or the conference finals. We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about Cade Cunningham's MVP case and what worries him about the Pistons when the playoffs arrive. And one other thing we'll ask him is, how are the Pistons, when both these teams are at full strength, how would they defend the Cavs? I think that's a very interesting thing now that the Cavs have James Harden in the fold. So without anything else from me, here's my conversation with Ku. And Khahil is back. First time in a little over a month. Third time this season as the Cavs take on the Pistons. First of 2 out of 3 against Detroit for Cleveland, and the Pistons are the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I believe they will finish with the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Not so sure they're going to finish with the best record in basketball, but they will have, I think, one of the 2 best records. And Ku, what has been going on lately with the Pistons? Watched them lose to the San Antonio Spurs on, I believe that was Monday night on a nationally televised game, and then saw them beat an Oklahoma City team that was without even more key players than the team the Cavs played on Sunday. So just like, what's been up with the Pistons, man?
Yeah, I mean, that Spurs game had a lot of hype going into it. That was right after the Pistons beat the Knicks, and there was a lot of talk around Cade Cunningham on national TV shows. So that was a big-time game. Disappointing outcome. Cade didn't play well at all, and the Pistons obviously lose there. It's not the biggest deal, but definitely was a little bit of a letdown. And then really looking forward to this OKC game, and then obviously they sat almost everybody, so not much to take away there. It definitely took a lot of the happiness or excitement, I would say, going into that game to see how these two teams played against each other. But Cade bounced back. A lot of their guys bounced back in that game. So it was a good kind of pick-me-up game, I guess, but couldn't read much into it. It was disappointing that so many guys missed. But Pistons have a tough schedule coming up, playing your Cleveland Cavaliers, playing the Spurs again next week. So I think we'll have a few more tests to get some of that excitement and answers that we were looking for this week.
So there's a lot I want to get into, but one of the things I want to ask, because this time of year, and I kind of think like it's for the wrong reasons it's brought up as much as it is this time of year, but the MVP discussion is really starting to rage. And Cade has had an incredible season, and I feel bad saying this because it's not how I mean it, because I think he's been awesome. But there are a lot of people that bring it up and say, well, because so many guys have been hurt, like he could win the MVP. So I'll ask like a two-parter here. Like, what do you think when you hear so many guys have been hurt, so that's why? And do you think he should be the MVP?
Yeah, I think first off, just hearing Cade's name in MVP conversations is overwhelming success for Cade and the Pistons this year. I mean, this is a guy 2 years ago, I remember fighting for my life that he was not worse than Josh Giddey, that he was not worse than Jalen Green, and that the team around him was just terrible. Like, this was the battles we were fighting 2 years ago. It felt like so many people were out on him because the infrastructure that he had was just terrible. So the fact that he's come from there, it's kind of like a origin story. It's great to see. So seeing him get here has been great. I do think he's been like an MVP caliber type player this year. With that said, I don't think that if SGA or Jokic are healthy, that he will win MVP. I know the latest straw poll came out. The Hoop Collective I listened to, I don't know who exactly does it. I don't know if it's ESPN or Bontemps himself.
Tim
okay,
Bontemps
yeah.
himself.
So
friend
he's
of the show.
Oh, there you go. Fair enough. You're bigger than I am. The voting had Cade third, and they had SGA overwhelmingly first, and then Jokic second, and Cade came in third. So I think Cade's a top 5 MVP candidate. I'd be cool with him third or fourth. But I don't think he actually has an argument over SGA, who I think is having a historic season, has been absurd, scoring any efficiency at the volume that we haven't seen since like maybe prime Harden and prime Michael Jordan. Like it's crazy. Jokic just casually having another just season that we kind of just sweep under the rug. It's just like a Jokic season that really is just another like 5th straight historical season. So it's like, I don't think he actually is better than those guys. And I think he'll finish top 5 in MVP voting, but I don't think that should really be like the focus of a lot of Pistons fans. I don't think that's where the battle should be. I think just the fact that he's been recognized as one of these type of guys, he's getting his name in this conversation, is a win nonetheless.
I think that's a fair way to look at it. I think that's the right way to look at it. Like, I do think the missed games aspect of this has made this a different conversation. I think it's made it a little bit disingenuous. And I agree with you. Like, as of right now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would have my MVP vote if I had one. So I think that's the right way of looking at things. But we saw the Pistons host the San Antonio Spurs on Monday. They lose that game in what I thought was a really good environment. It felt like it was a bigger game than just a Monday in February, right? Like, it didn't feel like a regular season game. It felt more like a playoff environment type of situation. So I kind of want to, off of that, ask you, because I don't think that everybody looks at the Pistons and say they're a surefire team to come out of the East. And there's more than just maybe some roster flaws that they have, like teams that don't have postseason success before being really good often don't win the conference. And we will see if the Pistons can break that. But what worries you about this team when the playoffs arrive? Like, how do you think opponents, whether it be the Cavs or the Celtics or, maybe not the New York Knicks as much, but how do you think those teams will try and exploit Detroit?
Yeah, I just want to say that the Spurs game 100% felt like a playoff game. I was there. The crowd was crazy. You could feel the physicality, the emotion, the want from both sides of the court. Both teams made multiple adjustments throughout the game. Like, that first half of that game specifically, 100% felt like I was witnessing a playoff game again. That was I removed myself as someone who covers the Pistons, as a basketball fan. It was incredible hoops to watch. It felt like you were watching a playoff game in February. So it was a lot of fun. But with that said, I think a lot of people have concerns about the offense and what's going to happen within the half court when the playoffs roll around. My concerns aren't so much that, because I've kind of just accepted, like, this is what this iteration of this team is. I think the front office has accepted that. The coaching staff has accepted. We know that's not where our strength is, so we're not going to spend too much time worrying about it. We need to hammer home that we're going to win these type of games. We're going to win our way. So I've accepted that the half-court offense, like, all of a sudden when the playoffs come around, you're not going to see the Pistons try to play Chaz Lanier or, insert end-of-bench maybe shooter to try to get more shooting in the half-court. That's not, like, they've accepted that this is what their team is, and they know that's probably not how they're going to win games. So I'm not concerned about the half-court offense. What I'm concerned about is, can the Pistons flex the defensive muscle that we've seen throughout the year on the top-level teams? Will they be able to win the margins like they've done throughout the year against the top-level teams? And coming out of the All-Star break, one of the more concerning things for the Pistons, now they did beat the Thunder and they beat the Bulls, lost the Spurs, but the most concerning thing coming out of the All-Star break is that all 3 of those teams hit 18 threes against the Pistons. All year, the Pistons have been one of the best three-point defenses in the league. And a lot of that has to do with the fact they shut off dribble penetration. They don't set up driving kicks, and there's not many openings for sprays to the outside. And in these 3 games, The point of attack defense hasn't been as good. I think the game against the Spurs is a little bit unique because Wemby just is requiring so much attention and so much gravity. It was crazy. He could have shot 0 of 30 in that game, and you would have been like he was the best player on the floor. It was crazy. So I think that's a little bit unique. But if the Pistons are not going to win the margins, gain extra possessions, right now they're number one in the NBA in the amount of possessions added over their opponent. So they consistently win the possession battle. They win the glass. They turn you over. They get out in transition. They win in fast breaks. If they can continue to win that way like they've done all year, then they should be fine in the playoffs. But if they allow other teams to get hot from three, they slip a little bit defensively, they slip with their closeouts, they're not as crisp on rotations, that's more important for this team than any other team, I think, at the top of their conferences in either side. So that's where I'm more focused about. The offense is the offense. I just accepted that's what it's going to look like.
More with Ku in just a second, but first, today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag, and with DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snack stock, your year fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on points. There are nights where your team might stress you out. I know that's been a little less lately for the Cavs, but there have been a lot of stressful nights this season if you've been a Cavs fan, and DoorDash can become your post-game therapy because sometimes you just need dessert and you just need it now. Those late night interviews hit. Suddenly you need chips at midnight. Well, DoorDash built exactly for that. Plus, if the group chat's saying pull up, you got to make sure you're prepared. We all know we've all got that one friend who has a phone that's always on 2%. Send a charger over from DoorDash. So from tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's show is also brought to you by GameTime. Friday's game between the Cavs and the Pistons, not the only one that these two teams playing in the very near future. Pistons are in Cleveland on Tuesday. That's going to be a big game. Rocket Arena, going to be electric, and you're going to want to be in the door. Well, how are you going to get in the door? Well, GameTime is the way to go because the crowd, the energy, the moment that's going to take place on Tuesday when the Cavs return home, that's going to be fun. Getting tickets, that can be easy too. That's why GameTime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fan. You can pull up the GameTime app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and have tickets locked in within minutes. Plus, you'll see the all-in price up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. You can also see the view from your seat before you buy to make that decision even easier for you. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON. That is LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That is code LOCKEDON for $20 off that first purchase. Download the GameTime app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. So when this game rolls around on Friday, we don't know, and we're recording this Thursday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we don't know who's going to be available, I guess, for both sides. But the Cavs have the bigger question with James Harden now having a fractured thumb. I anticipate that he might try and play in this game. Maybe he doesn't play in this game. Maybe he plays on Tuesday. We don't know. But like when the playoffs arrive, James Harden will be out there for the Cavs. And if these two teams meet in the playoffs, one of the questions I have, one of the things that I'm fascinated by, is how do you think Detroit would try and defend the Cavs when they have both Donovan Mitchell, who has been so good this year, and James Harden on the floor together?
Yeah, I think it's something I've talked about on the podcast as well when you guys made the trade for Harden, is that obviously there's been a lot of talk, and I think rightfully so, about like playoff Harden, whatever. But assuming that Harden plays well, and he's an all-time great. I've said this before. Like at some point, I just believe all-time greats will push through. At some point, they'll like be great, whatever. I just don't believe all-time greats will just always, fall on their face in the playoffs. So assuming that he is James Harden in the playoffs, they provide a unique, different like challenge for the Pistons because for like if they were just going into the playoffs, like I'll use the game against the Clippers earlier in the year when Harden was still on the Clippers as an example. The Pistons, every single time they played the Clippers, they would put Asar on Harden because their philosophy is if the wing scorer wants to go off, let him, but we're going to cut it off at the top. We're not going to allow any dribble penetration. Asar is going to take away all dribble penetration. We're not going to allow any dribble drives and kickouts. Let that happen. And if Kawhi or insert Jaylen Brown or insert whatever wants to try to beat us one-on-one, then so be it. Let it happen. That's really been their philosophy. Now, going against the Cavs, I think it's a little bit harder to do because you got Donovan Mitchell, who will be at the top of the arc, able to run some offense. You've got obviously Harden, who's an incredible pick and roll guy. So I think it's a unique challenge. I think as of now, I would say the Pistons probably would put Ausar on Harden. I just feel that they probably look at Harden as more of a threat when it comes to as a playmaker and setting guys up and creating more threes from beyond the arc. So I think they would probably put Ausar on Harden and try to shut down the pick and roll. But then whoever they put on Mitchell, I don't know. I don't know if they try to put Cade on him. It is definitely going to be something I'm interested to see. I feel like Cade's the only real other person that could guard him. Could the Pistons try to play Ausar and Ron Holland a lot in that series to try to put Ron on Mitchell and then Ausar on Donovan Mitchell or on James Harden? Maybe. But JB has shown a worriedness about playing those two for long stretches throughout a game. So I'm interested to see how they decide to defend them. I would assume that they put Ausar and Harden, but I'm not completely sure. Ausar is the best probably screen navigator in the NBA, so that's why I go with him on Harden. But, I mean, Mitchell is fantastic, so I don't know what they would do exactly.
Do you have worries about, and I know the answer to this question because you have texted me about this, but do you have worries about JB not playing Ausar Thompson enough in the postseason?
Well, major issue, major concern. So many of us in the Pistons community are talking about this. It will be a reason why they lose the playoffs, a playoff series, multiple playoff games. If it happens again, it will be a reason why they lose. It was one of the reasons why they lost last year against the Knicks, especially that Game 6 game. I'll never forget it. He sat Ausar for the entirety of the second half against the Spurs because they had a disagreement on the sideline about a defensive play, and he looked like he got real sick of Ausar for how he reacted, or maybe miscommunication earlier in the game as well. Whatever it was, sat him. Now the game against OKC, they both came out afterwards. Ausar seemed to have received it well. He said that the coaching staff has the right to bench me whenever they want. I don't take it personal. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. I just have to learn from my mistakes and play better. So it seems like he didn't take too much from it, and JB spoke glowingly of Ausar after the game. So maybe they, just moved on. It is what it is. But this has been something throughout the year. Ausar's not playing a ton of minutes. Even in the game against OKC, he elected not to close with Ausar again. We're just hoping in the community, we're hoping that when the playoffs roll around, and obviously we don't really have much evidence to hope of this. We're just kind of praying. We're just hoping that when the playoffs come around, that he realizes we must play our best players as much as possible. And Ausar is one of their best players. You cannot sit him on the bench. He has to play. And especially in a game, I can't imagine if they got matched up with the Cavs and he just sat Ausar. I could not imagine. Like Mitchell and Harden might go up for 30. There's no way. I just refuse to believe it will happen.
If Ausar doesn't play enough in that series, I don't see how the Pistons could win. Like the Cavs just have too much backcourt firepower. If he's not a fixture of their rotation and playing 30+ minutes a game, I think that they would really struggle in that series against Cleveland. But Khahil, very much appreciate the time, man. This was great. Maybe we can try and do this again on Monday before the Cavs and Pistons play again on Tuesday in Cleveland. Talk a little bit about what happens on Friday night's game in Detroit. I will be there. I know you will as well. Actually, are you going to be there, or are you going to be busy watching Killian Hayes play for the Kings?
So not Killian Hayes. I might not be there because I have a high school reunion kind of thing going on at 7. So maybe I'm deciding which way I want to go.
That's code for grinding Killian Hayes tape, but you can check who out over at Locked On Pistons. He does a great job covering that team, which has been the best in the Eastern Conference all year. We will see how we feel about the Cavs matchup with the Pistons after these two games, starting on Friday in Detroit and then on Tuesday in Cleveland. A big thanks to Khahil for stopping by. Very much appreciate the time. Love getting to talk Pistons with him. He does a great job over there. If you want to check him out, be sure to do so at Locked On Pistons. And thank you for making this edition of Locked On Cavs one of your first listens of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that is YouTube as well. Please make sure you're subscribed wherever you might be listening. If you're watching on YouTube as we get out of here, hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and make sure you click that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And I'll be back after the Cavs take on the Pistons to talk more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.